Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre. This is episode 5, and this episode has 2 segments. One is Intruder, and the second one is The Long Hair in the Attic. So Intruder is about Oshikiri. He is, I believe, a college student who has just moved into this mansion, and he keeps hearing footsteps. And some people think he might be kind of strange or weird because he's always by himself. And he decides to get this book on like strange mysteries of the world. He's like in the school library, and there's some students next to him, and they're talking about how like alternate dimensions and stuff like that. And they want to hear more about this. So the lead student's like, "Oh, there's a book about all this stuff. Let me go find it." And as he's walking by Oshikiri, he notices that Oshikiri is reading the book that he mentioned. So that's how they befriend Oshikiri. They decide to all go out to this diner and talk about their love for mysterious things and ultimate dimensions and stuff like that. And while there, Oshikiri mentions the fact that he hears footsteps in his house, despite the fact that he lives there by himself. And so he invites his friends over, and they're checking out the house, and the lead student mentions that, yeah, I feel weird here. Like, I feel like there's an ultimate dimension portal or something around here. So they're trying to find it. And eventually they hear footsteps, and the footsteps are going downstairs. So they rush to go see if they can find the intruder from another dimension. And as they're rushing down, they pass by this window, and they look out and they see an ultimate dimension version of Oshikiri digging up a hole because he's going to bury a dead body. And Oshikiri like sees the alternate version of himself, gets pissed off, tells them to leave and that he's intruding in his house. The alternate version looks up at Oshikiri, gives him like this mocking laugh, and then disappears. And they go down there and they find that the dead body belongs to the lead student. And so they bury the body, and that's when they find that there's actually 2 more bodies in shallow graves. And they dig up the 2 bodies, and they find out that it's bodies of the other students. So basically, in this ultimate dimension, Oshikiri has killed his friends and he's burying them here. And they theorize that the reason why he's doing that is because it basically gets rid of the body in their world. So in Oshikiri's world, like the evil Oshikiri, in his world, he kills his friends, takes their bodies to an alternate dimension to bury it. That way there's no, like, they won't be able to trace it back to him because they have no idea of where the bodies are. That's how the episode ends. The episode ends with we see the evil version of Oshikiri, and he's just sitting in his house, and he hears multiple footsteps, and the multiple footsteps are coming from the other version of Oshikiri and his friends. And that's how that ends. This was somewhat different from the manga. In the actual manga, it's a bit longer. Things aren't like cut out as much as they are here. And also the ending is different. In the ending for the manga, after Oshikiri and his friends bury the bodies of their alternate versions, they stop seeing him anymore. Like, even though they don't blame him, because they realize it's an ultimate dimension version of him and not him that did the killings, it's still too weird for them. And so he's back to having no friends and being lonely again. And also, I have no idea why this episode was made, why they decided to pick this story, because the Oshikiri story is a 6-part story. And this story, Intruder, is in the middle of that. So basically there's 6 Oshikiri stories. There's 2 or 3 stories before Intruder, and then 2 or 3 stories after Intruder. So that's why people who watch this episode, you might be like, oh, this seemed kind of abrupt. Like, I didn't really get what was going on. Things could have been explained better. It's because this is the middle of a 6-part story arc. For anyone who's kind of wondering like, what exactly happens, basically the Oshikiri in the alternate universe, the evil Oshikiri, he has a complex about being small. He wants to be taller. And so he does experiments on people. He's basically trying to come up with this drug to make him taller. And he's using his friends and stuff as guinea pigs. And when his friends die, he takes them to an ultimate dimension to bury them and stuff. And then eventually, the good Oshikiri tracks him down and fights him and stuff. And I'm not going to spoil everything. But the fact that you decided to pick a story that is a 6-part, there's 6 chapters, and you're picking the middle chapter to do a story, to do an adaptation for, why? There are so many other great Junji Ito stories out there that are one-shot, that don't have 3 chapters before it, 3 chapters after it. Like, why would you pick one chapter in the middle of a 6-chapter story arc to adapt? It confuses the audience. I don't understand. This is one of my problems with the series, is that some of the choices for the adaptations make absolutely no sense. Why would you pick something like this? Why would you pick something where, like, you have no idea what happened before it, and you're not going to have any idea what happens after it? So you're kind of left blue-balled in a sense. Like, there's no closure for people who haven't read the story because you're missing out 3 chapters to set up Intruder, and then you're missing 2 chapters that follow after Intruder. Yeah, I don't get it. That was really, really stupid. So yeah, then we get the next segment, which is the long hair in the attic. And in this one, we have Chiemi, who is in a car with her boyfriend, and he basically kind of mentions how GA like changes herself for him, like to please him. Like, she wears perfume that she knows he'll like. She grows out her hair because she knows that he prefers longer hair. The lipstick that she wears, like the shade, is the one that he prefers, and how he hates that. Like, he's like, some people might enjoy that, but I don't. I find it annoying. And then he dumps her and tells her, basically, like, lose my number, sayonara, and then he drives off. And of course, Chiemi is upset. She goes into her room. She kind of starts crying. Her little sister Eri is there and mentions that there are rats in the attic, like above her room. Chiemi starts staring at a picture of her and her ex-boyfriend, and then she ends up burning the picture. I guess here they mentioned that they were together for like 8 or 9 years. I don't think it's mentioned that they were together for that long in the manga, but damn. Yeah, like, to end an 8 or 9 year relationship the way he did, that's just being a complete dick. But she burns his photo. She gets upset. She goes to sleep. She wakes up the next morning to find a dead rat stuck in her hair. And of course, she freaks out. She starts washing her hair. And then she comes to the conclusion, I'm going to cut my hair out. Like, the only reason I grew it out in the first place was for my ex-boyfriend. And now I want nothing to do with him. So she convinces her sister to cut her hair. So her sister goes downstairs to grab some scissors when all of a sudden she hears Chiemi screaming. And Eri runs up the stairs, goes into Chiemi's room, and finds Chiemi's decapitated body. Chiemi is dead, and her head is missing. And of course, she freaks out and stuff. And then we see the ex-boyfriend, and he has just finished having sex with his new girl. And he gets a phone call, and he answers the phone. And all he hears is like this clicking, kind of grinding sound. And he believes it's Chiemi because it sounds exactly like the noise that Chiemi used to make when she would grind her teeth together. And he tells her to knock it off and hangs up the phone. And then we see Chiemi, like her dad's sitting in front of Chiemi's shrine, saying his prayers and stuff to her. Eri asks her like if he knows where the flashlight is because she's gonna go check up in the attic because she's been hearing rats skittering up there. And he's like, no, like I'll take care of it. So he goes up into the attic. And a while passes. And Eri's like, what's taking him so long? So she goes into the attic to see what's taking her father so long. When she sees her father dead, with his mouth agape, and just like this shock, horrifying look on his face. He was basically scared to death. And his flashlight falls from his dead hands and illuminates something. And Eri turns and looks, and she sees the decapitated head of her sister being strung up in the attic by her long hair. Eri like freaks out. She's like, don't worry, sister. I'm gonna bring you down. Like she wants to take her sister's head down and give it a proper burial. When she like grabs at her sister's hair, it like cuts into her hands and causes it to bleed. So she's like, I'm gonna go get some scissors and cut you out from there. Now she's making her way towards the attic entrance. The hair starts moving. It opens up the dead eyes of Chiemi. and opens up her mouth and basically uses the hair to roll down the attic, through the attic opening, out the door. And Eri is just freaking out. She's like, that's not my sister. That's not my sister. That's hair. And then we cut to the ex-boyfriend where he's dead and in his room being strung up by the hair of Chiemi. And the hair wraps around the boyfriend and just rips him apart. And we hear the sound of grinding teeth as the episode ends. So this episode was different from the story. And I actually feel like they should have just fully adapted the story and made this entire episode just the long hair. We didn't need the other story. We didn't need Intruder. Intruder was a really poor decision to do an adaptation for reasons I have already explained. They should have just had the entire episode be focused on the long hair. So the differences in the long hair is that the moment after Chiemi is dead is a bit longer. Basically, what happens is the father goes out to go golfing. Eri finds the headless body of her sister. She screams. Her mom comes up, sees the body. She screams, and then the neighbors rush over, and then they see the headless body. The head's missing. They believe that it was some kind of murderer came in, cut off her head, and stole it. And they're trying to figure out, where the murderer went. And then the cops arrive and stuff like that. And the boyfriend receives a phone call, hears the sound of grinding teeth, and then the rest of it is kind of normal. It's exactly like how it was in the anime, except the ending is a bit different. And I actually kind of like the ending for the manga a bit more. So what we see is the head of Chiemi leaves the attic, rolls down the stairs, and is basically maneuvering down the house, and Eri chases after it. And that's when Eri it sees the head moving on its own. It says it's not her, that's alive. It's the hair. The hair is the one that killed her. It has a will of its own, and the hair moves the body down the street and vanishes. And Eri's never able to find it again. And then we cut to the boyfriend who's in his house, and he's freaking out. He's saying, "Leave me alone." And we see a bunch of cracks in the ceiling and then the walls, and we see long strands of hair seeping through, and that's how it ends. So the hair doesn't get him and wrap him up and rip him apart. It's pretty much hinted at that that's what's going to happen, but we don't actually see it. And I kind of like that more because we see him just fall into despair. He's freaking out. We see just long strands of hair coming in through these cracks in the walls and ceilings, and they're coming towards him. So we already know what his fate is going to be. And I like the fact that we don't actually see it. So it's kind of left to our imagination. We can just imagine how horrifying it is. But he gets his comeuppance. But I like the way that it ended like that. Whereas here, it's like it just straight up gives you the gory aftermath. And I don't know. I didn't really care for that too much. I liked just the more foreboding ending that the manga gave us. All in all, I still did enjoy the adaptation. I actually wish, like I said, that they spent the entire episode on this segment instead of giving us Intruder. I have no idea who came up with the idea. Like, who's the one that's like, all right, here's the stories we're going to adapt. Whoever it is should never be given that decision-making power ever again. Because some of the decisions for these episodes are just mind-bogglingly stupid. Like I said, I've already said it so many times in this episode, but I'm going to say it again. Why the hell would you pick the middle chapter of a 6-chapter arc to adapt without showing us anything from the previous 3 chapters and then the remaining 2 or 3 chapters? Like, why would you do that? That's so stupid. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed by this episode, mostly for that. Like I said, long hair in the attic, it was good. I didn't like some of the changes to the ending that they made. I prefer the original ending more. And I wish that they had just made this one longer and just really sit on this and the characters a bit more, like in the manga. This should have been the entire episode rather than having Intruder be involved. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.